Hello YouTube, today I'm going to give you a tour of Windows 1.01, and before the tour, I'm going to give you a little bit of history. So Microsoft created MS-DOS in 1980, and MS-DOS was effective, but it was too difficult to understand by many people because that type of commands to open up programs instead of clicking on icons and to open up programs. So, in 1985, they released Windows 1.01, which is codenamed Graphical User Interface, because they had an interface to open up programs instead of typing in the commands to opening up programs, like in a command prompt. So it released on November 20th, 1985, and instead of typing in DOS commands, you were allowed to click your way through Windows to open up programs. And this version of Windows introduced drop-down menus, scroll bars, icons, and dialog boxes that make programs easier to use. And you're able to switch among several programs without having to quit and restart each one. And it ships with Windows Writer, Notepad, Calculator, and a calendar, and a clock. And Windows 1.01 required a minimum of 256 kilobytes, 2 double-sided floppy disk drives, and a graphics adapter card. So let's get to Windows 1.01. So it also has a control panel, and in the control panel you barely did anything with it. All you could have done was change the time, change the date, change the cursor, blink, and change the click. And you were only allowed to install printer and add new fonts. You weren't allowed to do like internet because there's no internet back then. And you weren't allowed to uninstall any programs and stuff like that the control panel has nowadays. So, now let's go to the calculator.exe, and it's just a simple calculator. This really hasn't changed that much. So yeah, you can just do simple math problems with it only, and stuff like that. Close up the calculator. Let's go to the calendar. The calendar is like, instead of the mobile app where it's month by month, it's day by day, and you can type in anything. So like, let's say you have to go to the airport at 12 o'clock p.m. You can say airport, going home, and stuff like that. And you can save as airport. Click on save, and it'll save to drive C. Close that out. Oops. Close that out. And let's go to Notepad. I gotta find Notepad. So Notepad never changed that much either. Like, it barely changed except adding a few new features. And it really has just notes like in a line like this. And if you want to type paragraphs, you have to do click on edit and click on word wrap. And that's what word wrap did. And you couldn't change the font either on this type of program back in the day. But the program you can change the font on was Windows Write. Let's go to write.exe right here. And this is Windows Write, and this is what Notepad turned out to be in the future. And the character, you can use bold, which darkens the font, italic, and underline, which underlines the font, and italic kind of like moves it to the side. And you can only have 3 fonts. Times New Roman is used to write essays, and the Courier is the default. So yeah, and you were allowed to add new fonts, but you had to have the disk for it and stuff like that because there was no internet back then. So let's go to bold, italic, underline. So bold was to darken it, like it is now, as always. Character, italic, and underline. Character, underline. See, and that's what these 3 things did. And of course there were shortcuts, like the bold. Instead of going down to the menu, you can press F6 to bold, you can press F7 to italic, and you can press F8 to underline, instead of clicking on a character every time. And paragraph, you can do double space, and you can do a half space, just like Microsoft Word. And that's what Windows Write was back then. Close. and you can click on yes, test to save test. Alright, now let's go to the clock, which is over here. This is where you can tell the time because there's no clock in the bottom taskbar, so you had to, if you wanted to know what time it was, you had to click on the clock app instead of having the clock in the taskbar here. To multitask back in the day, you had to click on the top right bar over here and drag it down to this taskbar or something like that. Or you can just double click the window and it'll just minimize into the taskbar. So let's go to card file. Card files were write flashcards, stuff like that back in the day. So I really don't have to do anything to show you here. Let's go back to the command prompt MS-DOC executive, and there's Microsoft Paint, which really never changed that much either, except the controls got better and stuff in the future. And you can write text on here, and you could erase. Oh well, you can also erase the text too. And you can make shapes with it, just like now. That's triangle. You can make dark shapes too. You can like fill in a shape. It's basically the features it has now. Nope. Actually close this. Go back to the DOS executive. I'm trying to see if I can get multiple windows onto one monitor, but I seem like I can't. Let's go to... Oh, that zooms it in. Zoom. Oh, this is how you multitask back in the day was to go back to the taskbar. You can do that, and then to multitask, drag this box to the top right corner, and to here you can multitask, which was pretty cool back in its day. So let's go to the clipboard. The clipboard is just basically like a note thing. You really don't need it. And it came with one game, which is Reversi, and it's right here. I'm really not good at this, so I can't really show you good gameplay of it, but it did come with one game to show you how to use the mouse. Let's close that. So yeah, that's basically Windows 1.01. So terminal is just basically Notepad. So yeah, this is Windows 1.01. All I had was writing files on it. It had a clock, it had a control panel, and basic programs like that. And you really couldn't have downloaded anything else on it except fonts and stuff. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video.